Hey there, welcome to the SoCal Focus Show with Duncan Bravo and Mike Blazer. How you doing, Mike?
Hi, good, Duncan. Thanks for having me back.
Certainly. We're going to get into a few different topics today, but our focus primarily with Mike and I is real estate, number one. We all are into cars as well, but in terms of real estate, I work primarily with selling and with buying real estate, and Mike is a loan expert. So one of the things that I thought we could cover in today's show are things like what are the important things to know when you're going into buying or selling. So in that regard, let's say for instance with Mike and loans. Mike, what should somebody know when they're considering buying a house? What are the things that they should really think about?
Well, where it really needs to start is to figure out if you're not paying cash, how much loan you can actually afford. Because the qualifying standards are very strict, and it's very important now to become pre-approved before you even start the shopping with your realtor.
Right. Now, you have a website. It's MikeForLoans.com?
MikeForLoans.com is my website. You can go on there. It's highly encrypted, so it's very safe. And you can go on there and you can actually apply online, and I'll be automatically notified electronically that you've done that, and then we can talk from there in terms of discussing one's qualifications, the criteria of a loan, what's necessary in today's mortgage market. There's a lot of variables to consider today.
Yeah. For the most part, I know a lot of people don't get a loan, every year or every 6 months. It might be every 2, 3, 4, 5 years that you have to consider looking at that. So things change. Things change, especially in California.
Things changed dramatically on a national basis in 2010 with the passage of the Dodd-Frank legislation, which emanated out of the housing crisis of 2008. And beyond that, in 2015, it was modified again with all new disclosure process. So if you haven't gotten a mortgage loan, say, since 2010, it's a whole different animal now. It's a whole different process. And for that reason, and the complexity of it all, I tell people that experience matters. You need to work with an experienced loan originator who's been licensed and certified and is up to date on the latest regulations and methods by which your loan is approved.
Exactly. Experience matters. I actually have a free handout that I will send to you, and it has the top 10 things that you need to know when selling a property, and then I have another free handout called the top 10 things when buying a property. So I'll give you the first two for free. Number one, you got to have a very experienced real estate agent to handle the transaction for you and negotiate on your behalf. That's where I come in. Number two, you have to have a very experienced loan agent that knows what they're doing and can get the ideal situation for you. All right, so that's number one and number two. Those are free. If you want any more, you got to go to our website. Actually, we have two websites. Go to mine at www.bravosellingteam.com. Enter your email, and I will send you the free report. And Mike's website is MikeForLoans.com, and Mike has all kinds of information as well about lending. So, getting into the lending realm, Mike, what are some of the horror stories that you've seen out there?
Well, I think the worst case scenario in almost every contractual relationship is what I call a slow no. To think that your loan's approved, to think that you're going to be buying this house, you've waived your contingencies, you've put your deposit at risk, and all of a sudden the lender calls you and says, wait, we have a problem. It's the worst phone call you could possibly get in the middle of the process. So what's really important in the initial stages is to be brutally honest and frank with your loan originator to make sure that if there's any skeletons in the closet, so to speak, you've addressed those, whether it's something about your credit, maybe a past foreclosure or bankruptcy. Some of this stuff will appear on your credit report, so any good mortgage originator will pick it up, but not always. And there's very specific rules now as to how long a wait period there needs to be between a foreclosure, between a bankruptcy, and the next property you buy. So best to seek the counsel of an experienced loan originator who can give you those guidelines right off the top of their head, and you'll know, but you've got to be honest because it will come out. Our investigation is very thorough, and it will most likely surface, and so you want to address it early on in the process, not wait until your deposit is at risk after you've maybe waived a contingency.
Right. Yeah, and speaking of properties and things that might come up, as part of the escrow process, we have a title company. So a title company will look at the title to the property, and they will find anything like liens, judgments, things that you may not want everybody to know, but it will come up. So it's really in your best interest to be brutally honest with both of us and the person that you're working with, if that's different, and lay it all out so that everybody knows what's going on and there's no surprises, especially when you're getting a loan. The last thing you want is something popping up at the last minute that kills your deal. So that's a little bit of advice. In terms of real estate, when selling properties, one of the thends that I've seen is people wanting to kind of shortchange the process, and it ends up hurting them by not doing all the right things. And so ultimately they don't get full value for their property. I had one client that she somehow connected with an insurance company that was going to give her some little rebate or something for giving them the deal. But I looked at how the property was marketed by the time she went on stream, and I did all the numbers and the calculations, and it was black and white that she was losing about $100,000
Wow.
because of the agent that she hired and what they had put the property on the market for. So obviously the property sold really fast and she did get some money, but she could have made $100,000 more if she had done a few things that I would have recommended. So these are some of the things that happen out there. There was another client that I had that he was so stuck on making a specific number. He wanted 1.5 million, and let's just call him Dr. B. He was a doctor, and he was stuck on 1.5 million. And this particular guy, I actually went and helped sand the wood on his house on a Saturday, and helped.
That's something not every realtor will do.
Right? I helped refinish his house so it would look wonderful. Took pictures and stuff, and I told him, the price is kind of on the high side. No, I want 1.5 million. Well, we did everything right, got great photos, all that stuff, and we were on the market for 3 months. And it didn't sell. And I said, listen, you got to drop the price to 1.4. It'll sell at 1.4. I did the numbers. I looked at the comps. I knew it would sell for, oh, no, I don't want it. So ultimately, the listing expired, and he sat for a while, and then he ended up giving it to somebody else. And they told him, they figured out the numbers, you got to sell for 1.4, and then you can move. Well, he finally listened to that person who never helped him with his wood.
Right.
And they sold at 1.4 million. And he called me about a month later, and he said, Duncan, I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you in the beginning. I would have had the money and gone on my way months sooner.
People get hung up on certain things, whether it's the purchase price, sale price, the interest rate. Best to put that in the back burner and deal with the person first. Once you know somebody, trust somebody, understand that they're on your team, then and heed their advice, follow them, and more often than not, it'll work out in your favor. So I urge my clients, don't get hung up on a certain interest rate. It happens every day. And the bottom line is, with interest rates, they change constantly, and they're basically the same with everybody because we all sell to the same secondary marketing sources. So it really boils down to, who do you want to do business with? Who do you trust that's going to look out for your best interests? That's first and foremost.
Yeah. And Mike, how many years have you been in the business?
Well, I've been doing this for 4 decades. I started very young, 2 maybe, I don't know.
Out of the cradle.
I actually started in college, and in my junior and senior year, I was in the loan business. I started off in collections, transferred to making consumer loans. And by the time I graduated college, I was going to go to law school, but I was making so much money already. I was being so successful in the loan business, helping people just like you get a loan, that I decided, you know what, I'm done with school. I'm going to make this my career. And that was in this 1970 something or other, and a long time ago, and I've been in the mortgage business ever since. Now, I haven't always been an originator. I actually rose up to the executive ranks of the mortgage industry, and I once ran the Western United States for a large national mortgage banking firm. I had 9 branch offices and 11 vice president reports and 300 or 400 people reporting up to me. But right around the 1998-99, I decided to start my own business and become an originator again, more or less where I started, and just helping people one-on-one. And it's been very rewarding for me emotionally, spiritually, and of course financially. So I've stuck with that ever since.
Yeah, Mike, you hit upon a really good point. This is a very rewarding career for us because we're in it for the right reasons. We want to genuinely help people, and there's not a lot of careers where you really can make a difference in people's lives. If you're an engineer or a number counter or whatever, it's a whole different game.
Right.
Yeah, it's a 9-to-5 job. You get a standard paycheck, but
the impact on what we do in people's lives, having to do with their personal residences, for the most part, is second to none. Because for most people, buying a home is their largest single investment they're going to make at any given time. So it's of primary importance, and it's very satisfying to get that phone call from the client saying, "Thank you so much for everything you did to help us get us in this house," and I'm sure you hear the same thing. It's that makes it all worth it right there. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. Mike and I are also investors. We have been investing for many years, so we know a lot more than the average new agent. That reminds me of one other thing. There are a lot of people that will say, "Oh, Cousin Johnny just got his real estate license. We should just give him the listing," or Cousin Johnny just started, in the loan business. Maybe we should give it to him. Well, let Cousin Johnny work for a few years and really know his stuff before you give him your business. It's really nice to deal with family and friends, and that's all great. But
as long as everything goes well. If something doesn't go well, then
there
it's
are
not
so many
good
things,
to be working with family.
Exactly. There are so many things that can go wrong. You have no idea. I think I could run off a few pages of all the things that have gone wrong with different deals. But yeah. Experience.
And here's another thing. I just ran into this situation. I have a new client that has been talking to a call center in, I won't mention the name of the company, but they're in Cleveland, Ohio. And he's going to buy a home, and he's going to use this call center, this junior loan officer who might be 23 years old, have been doing it for 6 months,
right,
to buy a multi-million-dollar home and get a loan here in the Los Angeles area, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It's way too much on the line. The need for the loan originator or loan officer to be involved at a moment's notice with either one of the listing or the selling agents is imperative. And if you've got a 3-hour time delay or time difference, and you're dealing with an inexperienced young man who doesn't really comprehend what a home for $1.5 million in the Los Angeles area is. He's thinking it's it's a mansion like Kensington Palace. In fact, it's just a regular single-family home. There's so much involved that I urge people to do business locally with people that you know and trust, and stay away from the lure of that 0.1% lower interest rate that's advertised and rarely delivered.
Yeah, good point. In terms of real estate sales and what I do for clients, one of the things that people don't realize is it's not just about figuring out a price and taking a couple of pictures. There's a lot involved in really marketing a property well. And I can go into detail, with the handout that I'll send you. But just as an example, I had a property that I just listed recently, and Zillow is probably the number one real estate website for the country. So, being a premier agent, I'm able to track what my property is doing on Zillow and see what other properties are doing at the same time in the same area. So there's a property that I put on, I think you came by, right, the Van Nuys house. So this house, I had some really nice marketing, great photos, etc. And I tracked the visibility on that particular property. In 1 week, in the first week, by the 7th day, it had 400% more traction than number 2, 3, 4, and 5 in that area. So that told me a couple things. Number one, I'm doing the right thing for my client, and I was able to share the spreadsheet with my client so he could see that we are getting way more exposure than everybody else in that whole area. 400%, not 20%, not 30%, 400% more people clicked on our property than all the others in that area. So what ends up happening, we had multiple offers on the property. We ended up getting into escrow at $20,000 over asking price because we created a bidding war. And that helps our client big time. It helps us. We work on commission, so we get a better paycheck for getting a higher price for our client. So long and short of it, if you know what you're doing, you can make such a difference in the end outcome versus a newer agent that really doesn't know what they're doing.
Right, and we don't abandon our clients just at the close of escrow either. We stay in touch. They have questions after they move in. They get documents in the mail they don't understand. So I regularly stay in touch with clients over tax statements, supplemental statements, things that come to them that they may not be familiar with, and we're here from them. So that's kind of like a little added value service that we provide to our clients that most typical realtors or loan agents don't provide.
Right. Speaking of statements, when we start representing a client, we are able to go to our escrow office and have the escrow office do what's known as a net sheet. So line by line by line, they can spread out everything that's going to happen in this transaction by the time we close. Where is all the money going to go? How much is going to go for taxes? This and this and this. We have people that help us with the process. They get paid too. All that stuff is broken down so that the client needs to see, they will see the actual bottom line of what they're going to get by the time we close the transaction. So that gives you 100% peace of mind. You know what you're getting into, and the escrow process is long these days. There's a lot, that happens while you're in escrow, and things can go wrong too. But if you know what your end result is going to be, puts you a lot more at ease.
Yeah. Nobody likes surprises in a real estate transaction, so the amount of money that you're going to net at the end should not be a surprise either. You should know that and understand it. Just likewise with certain elements of the mortgage process might be difficult, and you should know that right up front as you get through the process. So it's very important.
Yeah, Mike knows, certain things are going to be a little bit of a snag, and you knowing that up front makes it a whole lot of a smoother transaction. Right. And I know, things that are going to be difficult for my buyers and sellers. So we discuss that plenty of time in advance so that you're well prepared and you're able to get through the transaction smoothly and with the least amount of stress.
Okay.
So we're about out of time on this segment. We're going to take a break. Thank you very much for joining us on our show, SoCal Focus. We're going to take a quick break, and then we will be back. Thanks for joining us.